Hello, and welcome to another session of the Mastermind Book Club. I am CEO David Diaz, and to my left is Charles Culmer. We are summarizing an important audiobook called Think Like the Creator, Assume Your Throne, and Stop Begging for Crumbs from the Universe. Now, the title is pretty strong, but what does it mean? And that's what we're going to try and dissect right now. So I'd like to call on Chaz Culmer right now and to give his brief summary on this audiobook.
Hello and welcome everyone to another edition of the Mastermind Book Club. I'd like to thank CEO David Diaz for hosting. Think like the creator. We are all one people, one universe. And believe it or not, everyone is pushed out of everyone. In other words, we're all individuals, but we're one people, one universe. Therefore, the creation or the creator is in all of us, and that creator is God. And as God has created us, he's given us certain innate abilities to pay attention. Pay attention to how you live. Pay attention to how your life flows. This is saying that whatever you give attention to, it grows, it lives. That's part of your life force. So when you give your attention to something, you're giving your life to it. People say, I've given my life to this thing. And then whatever you ignore, that also has a repercussion. That dies. So technically, when you look at something, or even when you think about it or speak on something, life and death is in the power of your tongue. There's a story in the Bible in chapter 21 of Mark, around about the 18th verse, where it talks about Jesus the Christ going to a certain place, and on that route, he saw a fig tree. And this fig tree had no fruit on it, but it was at a time that it should have had fruit. So Jesus spoke to the fig tree, and his disciples heard it. He said, "Wither up and be thou no more." And then they went on into Jerusalem, into the temple, just more to the story. But coming back 24 hours later, the disciples noticed that the fig tree was withered and was no more. They said, "Master, that fig tree that you spoke to is no more." So, believe it or not, you can have 24-hour results in your life by just speaking to the things and believing it and using the alchemy like the book talks about to change things, to make it into what you need it to be made into. You can have 24 hours results just by speaking to a thing. And I'm going to stop there. What you ignore dies.
Thank
What you
you.
give your attention to lives. You're giving your life force to whatever you give attention to.
Thank you, Chaz Culmer. I'm going to be honest with you. Most people are going to think you're crazy, but the reality is if you're in touch with your inner self, you can do that, what Chaz just said, and you can do many other things.
It's
Now,
the God in you.
most of us are not in touch with ourselves. We're in touch with the external of what we believe is ourselves. And this book points to that we are always looking for someone to complement whatever it is that we want. Let's say, oh, I'm looking to buy a house and it's this type of house. What do you think? Should I buy it? And Chaz would probably say, yeah, why not buy it? And we're always looking for someone to reaffirm, to just say that, stop. What do you gain from that? That's what this book is saying. Stop telling people your plans because you should be focusing on what is present. And what is present is usually a lot. Now, there's another part to that. But before I go into that other part, I'd like to ask Chaz if he has anything else to add to what I just said or anything else that he might have learned from this audiobook, because although it's short, it's so, so powerful.
Like I said, we're one. Uh, we could talk about imagination. What you think about, you eventually become. The book hits on a lot of different things uh, about time. Time is an illusion. And the God creator or the creator within you, believe it or not, he sits above time. Therefore, he sees your beginning, he sees your middle, and he sees your ending. And if we're creators like God, guess what? We're timeless. We never end. That's something to think about.
Thanks,
We're
Chaz.
above time.
Yeah, thanks, Chaz. And now that you're mentioning that, I do want to add another point that goes right into that, and that is whenever you have some project, some question that you're uncertain what move to take, write it down on a piece of paper, fold it, and pray to God, to infinite intelligence, God, and ask for, enlightenment, understanding. What should you do? Should you do this? Should you not? There will be signs that will come up, whether you should or you should not do it. I have been practicing this since we started reading these books. I'd say it took me a while to understand some of these books, and then all of a sudden, one thing started clicking, and it's true. You have an inconvenience, don't say problem unless you mean it's a question, right? If you have a question, write it down, fold the paper, pray to God, ask. That's what this book tells you, because you have the answers within. I have the answers within. We just got to get started in doing this practice. Chaz, anything else you want to add?
Oh man, you just hit on a good one there. Ask, seek, and knock. In my favorite book, Matthew 7:7, it talks about that. For those that ask, receiveth. Those that knock, the door shall be open. And those that seek, they shall find. Ask, seek, and knock. A lot of times you have not because you're not seeking it. You're not using that creative ability like the book is talking about with your imagination, meditation, visualization, to mirror what God did or what God does. Because in the beginning, God created you and he made you to be able to be just like him. So,
Thank
so
you.
you are a God force on the earth, and God is a part of all of us.
Thank you.
We're
Thank
not
you.
just
Thank you.
individuals, but we all flow in the God force or the God theory. Yes.
That's how it is. Sorry to interrupt you. But yeah, it's true. We all are in the God force, and sometimes we just don't realize it. Another thing is you could be going through the worst moment of your life, but that's only if that's the way you want to view it. We read this audio and book. I read the book on concentration camps. I don't remember the name of the author, where the first part talks about being in the Jewish concentration camps back in the 1940s, right? And then the second part, this is a book that's highly recommended by Tony Robbins to read. You don't remember the name of it?
Flowers
Oh,
in the attic.
sorry?
Flowers in the attic.
No, no, no. The first part was being in the concentration camp, but then the second part, it points to seeing yourself in a better situation, no matter what situation you're going into. So, for example, another example, this was in the concentration camp. He saw himself in a better place, doing business, conducting business. If you're in a job and you think you're going to be let go, don't look at it as if that's your worst moment. Look at it as your opportunity to find something better. You should look at the bright side, no matter what the situation is. Calamities will happen. But remember, some of us will leave this earth before others, and you've got to be grateful for the time you've had, and you've got to be grateful that this person is going to be closer to God, because that's where we believe we're all going to be, unless those of you who do not believe in that, that's up to you. That's up to you to believe as you desire. This book points us to believe in the positivity of life, to respond intentionally to challenges. So rather than reacting emotionally, turn feedback into growth and avoid withdrawal or negativity. Chaz, want to add anything else before we go?
Oh, know that the God in you is more than enough.
The God in you is more than enough. God is within each and every one of us, and we can do honest self-assessments, asking ourselves why. I mean, that's the most important thing, and noticing the emotional patterns and responses so that we build our true identity. And one last thing that I want to add is silence is brought up again in this book, in this audiobook. Through silence, much more can be achieved. Don't feel like you have to respond to everything, especially when it's negative thoughts. Practice silence. Practice silence. And silence, instead of telling people what you're going to do, practice silence. Practice silence when people say something negative because you're not receiving it. Don't just ignore them. This is it. Chaz, so I think we're ending this session here right now. Thank you all for listening. Mastermind Book Club. And until next week, when we'll review another empowering book. This is Chaz Culmer and myself, CEO David Diaz, signing off. Until then, take care.